The Louvre Museum in Paris houses what is arguably the most heavily scrutinized object in human history. We all recognize this face. But while her image is universally known, the historical record of her creation is riddled with contradictions. In 1550, historian Giorgio Vasari wrote that Leonardo painted it for a Florentine merchant, specifically noting thick eyebrows. Yet an earlier 1517 eyewitness account claims Leonardo said the portrait was commissioned by a completely different patron, Giuliano de' Medici. Then there is the physical evidence. A 1504 sketch by the artist Raphael, drawn after visiting Leonardo's studio, depicts the subject framed by two massive architectural columns. Look closely at the famous masterpiece on display today. Those prominent columns are nowhere to be found. The documented details, from the presence of eyebrows to the specific patron, clash with the physical painting we know today. For decades, an alternative candidate has been sitting quietly in a Swiss bank vault. This is the Isleworth Mona Lisa. It depicts the same woman, but the subject in the frame appears noticeably younger. Framing her face are the exact architectural columns captured in Raphael's studio sketch. And if you look closely at her eyes, you can see distinct eyebrows and eyelashes, matching Vasari's specific description from 1550. This leaves art historians to decide if this canvas is a sophisticated forgery or the long-lost original. To find out the truth, modern researchers have moved beyond the dusty archives and turned to cutting-edge forensic science. Multispectral and infrared imaging allow scientists to peel back centuries of varnish, revealing the initial underdrawings. In authenticated Leonardo sketches, the hatching lines move from the bottom left to the top right, the natural motion of a left-handed artist. This same specific directionality is found in the underdrawings of the Isleworth canvas. There is also the matter of proportion. Renaissance masters often used the golden ratio, a mathematical standard, to ensure their compositions achieved a specific sense of harmony. Geometric analysis reveals that the Isleworth painting tracks with this structural standard. When applied to the Louvre original, the exact same underlying geometry dictates the composition. Work. These findings suggest the original master's hand. Physicists have taken the analysis further, using histograms to measure the precise distribution of light and shadow, the mechanics behind Leonardo's sfumato blending technique. This chart shows the histogram data for both paintings. The data lines for the Isleworth and Louvre faces overlap with 99% accuracy, indicating an identical method of light distribution. However, scientific correlation is only part of the authentication process. X-rays of the Isleworth painting lack Leonardo's trademark fiddling, the constant hidden revisions found beneath the surface of his other authenticated works. In Leonardo's work, these constant revisions reflect a mind that used painting as an ongoing experiment. Without that physical evidence of a struggle for perfection, the Isleworth painting remains a subject of intense academic debate. One leading theory reconciles the conflicting historical texts with physical evidence. He painted the same woman twice. Under this framework, the Isleworth Mona Lisa is the first draft, the 1503 commission for Francesco del Giocondo, depicting his wife in a traditional setting. Leonardo likely left this initial version unfinished and kept it in his personal possession. The Louvre Mona Lisa is the second draft. Begun years later and kept until his death, this version reflects his later, more sophisticated techniques. This timeline clarifies the eyewitness accounts, explains the missing columns, and resolves the subject's age discrepancy. This leaves a final, psychological question. Why would a notoriously easily distracted artist spend over a decade revisiting the same subject? As Leonardo aged, he became consumed by his scientific obsessions with anatomy, the mechanics of a smile, and the optics of atmospheric light. Leonardo used the second canvas to test his findings on how light and muscle influence human expression. The Isleworth painting is a successful likeness of a specific woman. The Louvre painting is different, a meticulous study of how blood flows under skin and how light dissolves a physical edge. The existence of the Isleworth Mona Lisa would reveal a restless artist who spent decades refining a single image, transitioning from a traditional portraitist to a scientist of the physical world.